Listen well, for I shall tell you a tale of ancient Rome, not of conquest or glory, but of power, corruption, and the terrible price of purity in a world that worships both virtue and political convenience. I am the voice of history itself, and through me the dead shall speak their truth. Picture, if you will, the sacred precinct of Vesta in the heart of Rome. The year is 73 AD, during the reign of Emperor Vespasian. The eternal flame flickers within its circular temple, tended by 6 virgin priestesses who have devoted their lives to the goddess of hearth and home. Among them stands Aurelia Quinta, 25 years old, beautiful in the austere manner of the sacred, her hair bound in the traditional 6 braids of her order. "For 11 years," she whispers to the flame, "I have served without question. Every dawn I tend this sacred fire, every ritual I perform with perfect precision. Yet today, accusations fly through Rome like vultures circling carrion. They say I have broken the most sacred vow of all, my chastity." Old Aurelia, chief among the Vestals, approaches with tears in her ancient eyes. "Child," she says, her voice cracked with age and sorrow, "the accusations have reached the Pontifex Maximus. They speak of secret meetings, of letters exchanged with the merchant Cassius. The very walls of Rome echo with whispers of your shame." "Shame? What shame is there in caring for Rome's welfare? Yes, I met with Cassius. Yes, we exchanged letters, but these spoke of grain shipments, not love, of preventing famine, not arranging assignations. Yet who will believe the truth when lies serve political purposes so much better? Ah, but the people of Rome love their scandals, especially when they involve the pure and untouchable Vestals. For you see, dear listeners, the Vestal Virgins were no ordinary priestesses. Chosen as children, they served for 30 years, 10 learning, 10 serving, 10 teaching. During this time, they remained celibate, their bodies sacred to Vesta, their persons inviolate under Roman law. But such purity comes with a price. Should a Vestal Virgin break her vow of chastity, Roman law demanded the most terrible of punishments. She could not be executed in the normal manner. No Roman citizen could shed the blood of one so sacred. Instead, she would be buried alive in the Campus Sceleratus, the evil field, entombed underground with only bread, water, milk, and oil, as if these meager provisions could sustain life in a living grave. Enter Senator Marcus Brutus, not the famous Brutus of Caesar's assassination, but a descendant equally skilled in the arts of ambition and betrayal. "The purity of our sacred institutions must be protected," he declares to his fellow senators, his voice dripping with false piety. But those who knew him understood his true motives. You see, Brutus had been positioning himself to control Rome's grain supply, a commodity that could make him rich beyond imagination and give him power over both emperor and people. But Aurelia's meetings with Cassius had uncovered his schemes. A living Aurelia might speak of what she had learned. A dead Aurelia would tell no tales. The trial begins in the Regia, official residence of the Pontifex Maximus. Aurelia stands before her judges, her white stola pristine despite her bonds, her dignity intact despite her circumstances. "Honored priests," she says, her voice carrying across the chamber, "if I am guilty of anything, it is of caring too deeply for Rome's welfare. But tell me, who benefits from my condemnation? Who profits from my silence?" The chief priest shifts uncomfortably on his ivory chair. He knows the political currents that swirl around this case, knows that his own position depends on senatorial favor.
Yet something in Aurelia's bearing and her unwavering gaze troubles him. The evidence, he says reluctantly, appears overwhelming. Letters were found, meetings documented.
But wait. Tribune Flavius bursts into the proceedings, his face flushed with righteous anger. What evidence, he demands? Letters discussing grain shipments, meetings that occurred in public places. Where are the witnesses to impropriety? Where is proof of physical transgression? Poor Cassius, the merchant at the center of this storm, stands trembling before the tribunal. Honored priests, he stammers. Yes, I met with the Vestal Aurelia, but not in the manner suggested. She sought information about grain shipments, fearing that Rome's people might face famine if certain political maneuvers succeeded. Ah, but the trap has been carefully laid. Evidence can be manufactured, witnesses coached, truth twisted to serve corruption's needs. The trial proceeds with the inevitability of Greek tragedy. We know how it must end, yet we cannot look away. Aurelia's younger sister, Livia, throws herself before the tribunal, tears streaming down her face. Please, honored priests, my sister is innocent. She would sooner die than break her sacred vows. She may yet have that opportunity, comes the chilling reply. Night falls on Rome, and Aurelia sits alone in her cell. Not truly a cell, for even the accused retain their sacred status. She stares at the stone walls and contemplates her fate. What is justice, she wonders aloud? Is it the blind application of law, regardless of truth? Or is it the pursuit of what is right, even when that pursuit threatens the powerful? I begin to see that my trial is not about my guilt or innocence. It is about whether Rome still values truth over political convenience. But then, then comes the moment that will echo through history, when the tribune reconvenes, when condemnation seems certain. Aurelia rises to her feet with the bearing of an empress. I call upon the ancient right of trial by ordeal. Let the gods themselves determine my guilt or innocence. Gasps echo through the chamber. Trial by ordeal? It has not been used in generations. The accused would grasp a red-hot iron bar and carry it 9 paces. If innocent, the gods would protect her from harm. If guilty, her flesh would burn as divine judgment. This is primitive superstition, Brutus shouts, his carefully laid plans crumbling. We have evidence. We don't need divine intervention. But the people have heard, and they love the drama of it. Let the gods decide, they chant. Let the gods decide. And so we come to the sacred precinct of Vesta, where all of Rome has gathered. The brazier glows with red-hot iron, and Aurelia kneels before the altar of her goddess, praying silently. Child, are you certain of this course? Whispers Aurelia. The ordeal is dangerous, even for the innocent. I am certain of my innocence, Aurelia replies, and if the gods will not protect me, then perhaps Rome is no longer worthy of their favor. She rises. She faces the crowd of thousands who have come to witness divine judgment. The Pontifex Maximus uses long-handled tongs to lift the glowing iron from the fire. Citizens of Rome, she calls out, her voice carrying across the forum. For 11 years, I have served as your Vestal Virgin. Today, I place my fate in the hands of the gods. If they find me innocent, let this ordeal clear my name forever. If guilty, let my punishment serve as a warning to all who would break their sacred vows. She pauses, her eyes finding Senator Brutus in the crowd. But know this, citizens, if I die today, ask yourselves who truly benefits from my death.
ask whether justice or politics guided this tribunal.
The iron is ready. Aurelia approaches the altar. The crowd falls silent, 10,000 people holding their breath as one. Even the gods seem to pause in their eternal dance to watch what unfolds below. Vesta, she prays, raising her hands to heaven. Goddess of hearth and home, protector of Rome, you know my heart. You know my truth. I place myself in your hands. She reaches out, grasps the red-hot iron with both bare hands, and begins to walk. 1 pace, 2 paces. The crowd gasps at each step. 3 paces, 4, 5. Suddenly, Brutus shouts, "Stop this madness! I withdraw the charges!" But Aurelia does not stop. 6 paces, 7, 8, 9. She reaches the end and carefully places the iron bar on the waiting altar. Then, in the silence that follows, she holds up her hands for all to see. Her hands are completely unmarked. Not a burn, not a blister, not even a redness mars her perfect skin. The crowd erupts. Miracle! The gods have spoken. She is innocent. But Aurelia is not finished. She raises her voice above the celebration. Citizens of Rome, the gods have declared my innocence. But this ordeal has revealed something more important than my personal fate. It has shown us how easily our sacred institutions can be corrupted by political ambition. She points directly at Senator Brutus. This man sought to use my death to advance his own power. He cares nothing for the sacred vows of the Vestals or the welfare of Rome's people. And so, Senator Brutus falls from grace, expelled from the Senate, his conspiracy exposed. Tribune Flavius introduces laws requiring multiple witnesses and overwhelming evidence before any Vestal can be charged. Cassius is cleared and rewarded for his truthfulness. But what of the miracle itself? Did the gods truly intervene? Or was there perhaps some more earthly explanation? Some say that Julia, Aurelia's fellow Vestal, had arranged for the iron to be cooled through some clever substitution. Others whisper of a protective salve applied to Aurelia's hands in secret. Does it matter? The people believed divine justice had prevailed. Their faith in the sacred was restored. Their suspicion of corruption confirmed. Sometimes the power of belief accomplishes more than the miracle itself. Years later, when asked about that day, Aurelia would say, "The gods work in mysterious ways. Perhaps they shielded my flesh from fire. Perhaps they gave me strength to endure the unbearable. Or perhaps they worked through human courage and cleverness to ensure that truth prevailed over deception. What matters is not the mechanism of the miracle, but its meaning." And what was that meaning? That power, unchecked by moral authority, becomes corruption. That religious institutions, when they maintain their integrity, serve as a check against political abuse. That sometimes, in the darkest moments, courage and truth can triumph over conspiracy and lies. But let us not think this tale belongs only to ancient Rome. In every age, in every society, there are those who would use sacred institutions for profane purposes. There are always those who would sacrifice the innocent to advance their own ambitions. There are always those who confuse their personal interests with the greater good. And in every age,
There must be those willing to stand against such corruption, willing to grasp the red-hot iron of truth, whatever the cost. For when we allow politics to corrupt religion, when we permit power to override justice, when we choose convenience over integrity, we begin the long descent into moral darkness.
The eternal flame still burns in the temple of Vesta, not the physical flame, which was extinguished long ago, but the spiritual flame it represented, the flame of truth, the flame of justice, the flame of courage in the face of overwhelming opposition. That flame burns in every heart that chooses truth over lies, justice over expedience, courage over comfort. It burns in every voice that speaks for the powerless against the powerful, in every hand that refuses to be raised in false witness, in every soul that would rather face the iron of divine judgment than live with the corruption of human compromise. So I ask you, listeners, what would you have done? Faced with false accusations backed by overwhelming political power, would you have meekly accepted injustice? Or would you have had the courage to grasp the red-hot iron of truth, trusting that somehow, in some way, justice would prevail? For in the end, that is what the punishment of the Vestal Virgins teaches us. Not that the innocent are always protected, too often they are not. Not that justice always triumphs, too often it fails. But that there are moments, rare and precious moments, when courage and truth align with divine will or human cleverness to create something that looks very much like a miracle. And in those moments, we remember why civilizations rise and fall, not on the strength of their armies or the size of their treasuries, but on whether they choose to honor the sacred flame of truth or allow it to be extinguished by the winds of political convenience. The flame burns still. Tend it well. Remember Aurelia Quinta. Remember the price of purity in a corrupt world. Remember that sometimes the gods help those who help themselves, and sometimes courage is indistinguishable from divine intervention. And remember that in every age, the choice remains the same. Will we grasp the iron of truth, whatever the cost, or will we allow the innocent to be buried alive in the tombs of our cowardice?